Greetings, Diana or Lighthawk here. Now today I wanted to touch upon about accessing different dimensions and spheres. Now I briefly talked about this in my Nature, Spirits, and Elemental videos that's posted on the Conscious Awakening Network, but I wanted to go into this more deeply. Now one of the ways that the ancient people and the cave dwellers were accessed different spheres was just the way that they lived. A lot of them did live in caves or overhangs and so on, and they were very in touch with the elements and the earth. Also, just being in a certain kind of environment and having that silence too, especially at night, and then with a fire going, like a campfire that wasn't just used for eating and so on, but heating up the meat and other food items, but also it's a way whenever you peer into the fire. And there is a shamanic technique with this, and you can rattle along with this, is that it really can bring you into another state. Now also, they took different kinds of, the ancient tribes and people took different kinds of herbs and plants and so on, where they automatically went into a different dimension. And they would often, of course, you'd see photos of their different drawings on the walls of stone or in caves of what they experienced. So it wasn't just about the hunting, but it was about their relation to these dimensions and to the universe. In fact, one common symbol, especially in the Southwest, is the spiral. Now also, different people would, different tribes and groups would get together, and they would do some drumming too. Now their drums might have been made, more natural looking out of different animal hides and so on. But that is another way to really, not just for the beat, the music, but to go into another dimension. Now, being in this environment, I really also feel close to inner earth. And I would like to touch on that more. So atmosphere and environment can affect the consciousness and also affects inadvertently, temporarily accessing different dimensions. So darkness and silence, which many cave dwellers had, could affect their state of mind and their consciousness, and also outlook. Also, the magnetism of a place can interact with an individual, or essentially the vibes of an area. These highly vibrating places can be in caves or around a lot of boulders, in forests, near lakes and deserts even, or near where there are vortexes. Now, I was in a small cave at the base of Mount Shasta last year, and with my intention, the energy of the group I was with, and the magnetism and elevated vibrations of the area, I quickly bilocated to underground and met with the Adama figure that several people have seen and interacted with. Now he introduced me to a relative, a female, Serena, with long white hair and shiny blue eyes. She continued to show me around the world, their world, and her dwellings in place. There are very rounded buildings and dwellings with arched doorways, and inside curved, simple furniture. The walls were a pinkish stucco and very peaceful and clean dwellings, with a curved path winding up to a temple. and lots of very, very green hanging plants coming down along the path. Very beautiful and very vibrating, lots of energy. Now the temple was vibrating also and had a large inverted crystal on top. Now later they were having a meeting that day in another structure with a very big holographic screen. The occupants and people were wearing blue and white robes, and the chairs that we were sitting on were curved and comfy, almost like you could just be absorbed by the chair. Now the ant people were visiting, and they seemed very dedicated to help. I was not just in another world, but it really felt like another dimension. And there are many places where you can access the inner earth. And of course, it helps if you are in a good vibrational state at the time and that you are open to discovery. Now, journeying and accessing various realms and dimensions came naturally to me. I started when I was younger, and besides being vibrationally and spiritually attuned, and my main focus is being God-centered, I had a native grandfather from my mother's side and an Irish and Celtic lord grandfather on my father's side. So it is also in the blood. We would often drum out at my grandfather's cabin with all different ages participating. The drumming can really bring you to a temporary state of mind or consciousness. And if you would like more information on my multidimensional readings that I do, my website is mountainspirithealing.org. So remember, the main determiner of accessing different dimensions is our mental, emotional, and spiritual state, and basically the state of our consciousness. Usually, the more evolved we are, the more our consciousness is rising, and the more highly vibrating we are. This is also referred to as leveling up and being in our domain of frequency. Now, dreams, psychedelics, meditation, rattling, and drumming are all tools to reach different states of mind, realms, and possibly go on to different states of dimensions. And they do this by either entraining the mind or with the filter of the brain being lifted. But to actually reach a new realm or consciousness or dimension, and then being able to exist in this new dimension or density, is not temporary or usually not immediate, but it is actually a process and can sometimes take quite a bit of renewing one's life purpose. Lots of inner work, soul evolvement, and being willing to be close to the God Source. Essentially, it is how clear and devoted you are to your spiritual life. Accessing different domains and having, quote, an experience is really secondary to raising consciousness. Now, raising consciousness provides the potential to naturally reach higher dimensions. But don't put aside all your temporary accessing tools. For each journey or highly vibrating experience can add to more spiritual evolvement over time. In ancient times and in the tribal past, a field was often used as a gathering place for drumming, ceremonies, and dance. They were also seen as power spots, or as in Celtic lore they're called nematons, a place where the energy is high with much magnetism that I mentioned before, and where the veils are thin, especially certain times a year. In some places, there are also vortexes or mini vortexes. But again, these are all, in most cases, temporary ways to access other realms and dimensions. Now, the more permanent way is when the soul leaves the body, and then it depends again upon your vibration and spirit quotient. The different dimensions or spiritual dimensions or densities are sometimes labeled as 7 dimensions, correlating to the 7 main chakras, or sometimes it's stated as 12 dimensions and beyond. Dimensions can even be scientifically verified by quantum physics. Some say that each dimension has like a 90-degree angle and partly overlaps the next dimension. Now, 0 dimension is like a point in consciousness. First dimension is a form of experiencing oneself in a mental way. And in this world, it's related to the mineral kingdom. The second dimension involves positive and negative forces and also geometric objects. And in this world, or earth, it's related to the plants and animals. Now, the third dimension contains height, length, width, depth, human forms, and all physical beings, and also time and space. Now, with the fourth dimension, it's a continuation of time on a certain level. Also, there's much integration. Now, the lower fourth is of mostly the astral, so you don't want to dwell there very long or dwell there. The upper fourth includes cosmic and celestial races. The fifth dimension is where you can see the bigger picture, and you can move forward or backwards in time. And life happens for you, not just against you or to you. Some say the Arcturian way dwells there. And in the sixth dimension, there could be parallel and multiple dimensions with lots of possibilities. It is also the realm of the oversoul. Now, the seventh dimension, there are more infinite possibilities where what you see in the outer world is what you are or experiencing in the inner soul or world. It is also looked at as the master level. Now, the eighth dimension includes more cosmic information, and it is the avatar level. Now, going on to the ninth dimension, that is where the laws of physics no longer apply. and it is often known as the Buddhic, or the beginning of the Christ level. The 10th dimension in the higher realms is where anything could exist. And now going on to the 11th dimension, it is the universal realm, one with everything, vibration of energetic strings. Now the 12th dimension is considered the source. Now in higher dimensions, one can see what is below, but being in a lower dimension, one cannot sense or see what is above unless there is pure consciousness raising. Remember, this is not a race, competition, or contest to either access or raise to other dimensions or densities. It should be a natural flow of enlightenment. So now we're going to do a special kind of meditation journey. It's always good to meet your spirit animal or spirit bird. And this is another shamanic technique. And you can use a rattle or a drum. And it's best to just reflect on, if you're not already out in nature, which we are today with this wonderful backdrop that we're going to use as a launching point to actually meet our spirit bird. Now, if you're inside, you can do this technique also and envision that you're seeing just an open field. And you want this again to be spontaneous. You don't want to heavily control this at all. But just envision that you're in a field if you're not already, or at a viewpoint. And whatever comes to you, whatever the bird, or if you're doing one with a spirit animal, but today we're going to do the spirit bird, and whatever bird does appear to you, it could be any kind of bird. And see the shape once it appears, see the colors, see the size, and also what kind. Sometimes it will look directly into your eyes, and whatever message arises from that. And then you can just either walk or start running across the field, and the spirit bird will just fly with you, and then from there you go into a journey. And it could be, most of the time with this journey, it is to the middle world, or again in Celtic lore, it's the other world. Now today we're going to, after we meet or join up with our spirit bird, we're going to do a special kind of journey where we're rising up above the sky, the clouds, into the atmosphere. And it's to really get not only another viewpoint of maybe of something happening or going on either with yourself or with the community or with the world, but also just to see everything from a higher perspective. And we want to just, when we do this and lift off, we want to just release those chains, any emotional, heavy emotions or thoughts. Just release them and let them go, and let them go, if you haven't already, float down and down into the earth. And so again, there is no limit with this as far as what worlds or dimensions that you access, and just wherever your consciousness takes you and wherever you go. And so again, just like with any meditation or journey, you want to take some deep breaths beforehand. So we're going to take some 3 deep breaths, and then I'm going to guide you on this. But again, my guiding is just words, and it's just a a way of just kind of, structuring lightly the meditation or journey, and whatever you experience from there. We might even do some toning. And so let's take some deep breaths. And it's usually 3 deep abdominal breaths. And we're going to expand our heart center out. And while we're doing that, of course, we're envisioning a golden shimmering light coming down through our crown chakra. And it's coming through all the way down to our coccyx and down to through the ground, or if you're inside, through the floor, and then the ground and all the layers and stratas. And moving that grounding cord all the way down to the center of the earth. And what we're passing some crystal caves again, and all different colors and shapes of crystals. And they're really emanating a lot of wonderful energy. And below the crystal cave, there's just big veins and big groupings of hematite. And there's even some lava flows going around these caves. And my earth dragons are showing up. And you can see if yours show up. And just if they do, just anything, any leftover emotions again or thoughts, you can also give them to the dragons, and they will have them flow down these lava streams. And so we're bringing that grounding cord all the way down to the core of the earth. And it's really good to connect with Mother Gaia again. And her emerald light is just coming up and rising up. And it's a very supportive, loving light. And it's rising all the way up to our bodies. And it's mixing with the golden energy coming down from the crown. And they're mixing together, and it's a protective energy, a golden emerald green. And meanwhile, our heart center is expanding out. And it's all forming like an egg shape. So now we're going to envision ourselves seeing this spirit bird. And for me, it is my large hawk, light hawk. And again, see what the shape, the color, he is peering right into my eyes. And I am receiving messages and support. But from here, we're going to envision running across a field in the forest. Just running. And most of the time we would go to a temple or a spot, but we're going to lift up. And lift up and fly with our spirit bird. Feel the lightness now. And again, release any heavy chains or burdens. Now you may just want to hover around and see just a certain situation or yourself from another perspective. But we also have the opportunity just to rise up even more. And we're rising up. We can rise up above, in the clouds, and above the clouds, in the atmosphere, and looking down on Earth. And see if you see any spots that stand out on Earth that are like different colors, or maybe some hot spots, or different energy patterns. And along with our spirit bird, we're going to do some light spirals or some light grounding. And they're turning and turning in the atmosphere around, very healing. And they're going all the way down to the earth, these light spirals. Down to the earth and into the earth. And now we can actually become our bird. It's not the same as shape-shifting, but just become it. What does it feel like? Any other messages that you receive? The lightness and the freedom of it. And rising up even more. Again, there's no limits. And we're going into another dimension, or another sphere. And I see all kind of magnetic colors. And now my spirit bird and I, we're going into a portal. And we're going to trust that portal. There's so much light. You can just dwell in this and absorb it. And now we're going from one highly vibrating sphere to another. So I'm now fully immersed with my spirit bird. And now we're both seeing a phoenix in front of us. But whatever you see and experience is fine. It is a huge light phoenix. Ja, ja, hola. Osa, nestulia, ona, usua. I feel the circles around me, the circles of light around us. And it's strengthening the wings. And now I could stay, of course, we could all stay even longer. Now we're going to circle on back. And we're doing spirals. Again. Spiraling around. And through the different spheres. Still feeling the freedom and the lightness. And we're going to remember everything that we've absorbed today, because it is within our being now. It's within the fabric of our being and within our consciousness. So we're spiraling and spiraling, and now circling around the earth, but with a new, lighter, higher perspective and light strength. And now we're flying and hovering above this area or your area. And now above the body, and become in perfect alignment with the body. And we're going to immerse back in. And again, we are fully grounded. And we are so grateful for what we could experience with this. And it's good to really practice journeys like these, even for a longer period of time. And again, another time you can really use a rattle or drum to help you go into this. And also, it's good to, any messages that especially stand out, to really journal them down. And remember the message about no limitations, and to be able to, with your consciousness, lighter consciousness and new perspective, is you can access any world and also any spheres or dimensions. In every breath, every movement, and even with every change, I welcome the sacredness of the divine. Your love is in the petals of a flower, your shelter in an embrace, your wisdom in the upreaching trees. I hear your voice in the wind. I can rise above all earthly concerns on the wings of a hawk or eagle, soaring and spiraling up to other spheres and dimensions until I become that sphere, totally immersed in it. Even more vivid colors harmonic shapes, supporting spirit beings, acceptance, and the never-ending peace. One soul will feel unshackled and very buoyant, welcoming even more and more of your presence, surrounded by beings of light who trusted the source and uplifted to dedicate to the journey going home.